Last time, Harris forced us to see that blueprints aren't drawings but contracts written in lines. He said accuracy itself was respect, and every mistake on paper becomes a scar in steel and concrete. Maria groaned that it was just coloring, but Harris's words cut deep. Blueprint is law. Today the paper was gone. In its place, steel and PVC pipes, weighted cold, heavy, and unbending. Harris called them the skeleton of electricity. Once bent wrong, they never forgive. The workshop smelled of oil and hot dust. On the bench lay conduits, thin EMT, thick rigid steel, and light PVC. Conduit benders leaned against the wall like silent guards. Harris stood with his boots planted wide, his eyes colder than the steel in his hands. Wires are veins, he said. Conduits are armor. Armor protects life, but it also cuts. Treat it wrong, and it kills faster than bare copper. Today, you bend for the first time, and you will fail. But you will learn. Maria tapped a length of PVC with her boot. Looks like cheap plumbing. Harris's head snapped toward her. Wrong PVC runs underground, shielded from sun. EMT lines walls where speed matters. Rigid steel defends where impact strikes hardest. Choose wrong, and you build weakness into the skeleton. Weak skeletons collapse. He kicked a piece of EMT toward me. John, measure 10 feet. I pulled the tape, my hands slick with sweat. My mark landed at 9 3/4. Harris's voice hit like a whip. What mistake? Wrong measurement. What does wrong measurement cause? Wrong cut, wasted pipe, and wasted pipe causes. Lost time, lost money, and lost money causes. Lost job, I muttered. Correct, he said coldly. Maria laughed under her breath. All this over a few inches. Buildings burn over less, Harris shot back. He shoved a hacksaw into my hand. I cut the EMT, sparks stinging my fingers. The end was jagged, sharp as teeth. Harris yanked it from me and glared. What mistake didn't ream? And what happens when you don't ream? The sharp edge cuts insulation. And when insulation cuts, short-circuit fire. Correct. Armor becomes blade. One careless edge. One burned building. He threw a remmer at Maria. Fix it. She scraped the edge half-heartedly. Feels pointless. Harris's voice dropped, heavier than steel. A man I knew once thought the same. Skipped reaming. Months later, wires inside shredded. The arc flashed. The ceiling burned. Men coughed black smoke until we dragged them out. That man never skipped reaming again. He never worked again. The silence pressed on us harder than conduit. Then Harris set the bender in place. John, bend 30 degrees. I stepped too hard. Conduit kinked, its smooth line crushed. What mistake? It's bent too sharp. And what happens when conduit kinks? Wire won't pull when you force wire. Insulation tears. And when insulation tears, Maria groaned. Fire, correct, Harris said. He turned to her. Your turn. Bend 20. She leaned on the bender unevenly. The conduit twisted crooked. What mistake? Crooked bend, she admitted. And crooked causes. Stress on fittings. And stress causes. Failure, correct. Steel hates crooked. We practiced for hours, sweating, swearing, ruining conduit. The scrap pile grew higher. Harris's voice never softened. What's the maximum degrees of bends in one run? 360. What happens if you exceed it? Wires jam, and when wires jam, insulation tears. And when insulation tears, short circuit. Fire. Maria wiped her forehead. Inspectors must love saying no. They do, Harris said flatly, because mistakes love repeating. By evening, our arms shook from bending steel. Harris looked at the pile of ruined conduit and then at us. Lesson 1. Measure twice, cut once. Lesson 2. Ream every edge. Lesson 3. Respect the bend. Conduit is armor. Careless armor is a knife. Maria collapsed onto the pile of scrap. So tomorrow it's just more pipes? No, Harris said. Tomorrow it's patience. Tomorrow you prove the rule. Measure twice, bend once. Steel doesn't forgive. I stared at the bent conduit in my hands. For the first time, I felt the weight of what Harris meant. This was no exercise. This was survival. Next, episode 20. Measure twice, bend once. Last time, Harris dropped conduits on the bench like swords on a battlefield. We cut, reamed, and bent for the first time. Most of what we touched turned into scrap, kinks, and crooked lines. Harris's words rang louder than the metal. Conduit is armor. But careless armor is a knife. Today, he promised, the lesson would not be about force, but about patience. Steel bends for no one, he said. You bend for it. The workshop felt hotter than usual, sweat already prickling my skin, though the day had barely begun. The pile of ruined conduit still sat in the corner, silent witnesses to yesterday's failures. Maria nudged one with her boot. Guess we're building a metal graveyard? Harris ignored her. He laid a fresh stick of EMT across the floor, then planted a bright orange marker on it. Here is your target. Offset bend, 30 degrees, exact distance. It's missed by an inch, and the run won't fit. Missed by a degree, and the inspector fails it. Maria groaned. All this for a bend. Harris's eyes didn't move. Measure twice, bend once. Those who rush make scrap. Those who measure, build. He thrust the tape into my hands. John marked the spot. I knelt, measured quickly, marked. Harris frowned. Measure again. I checked, and my mark was off by half an inch. My throat tightened. What mistake? He asked. Didn't confirm, I said. What does wrong measurement cause? Wrong bend, wasted conduit, and wasted conduit causes lost time, lost money, correct? Maria smirked. And probably fire, right? Not yet, Harris said flatly. But mistakes always end there. He showed us how to line the mark with the bender's arrow, how to plant the foot and pull smoothly. The steel resisted, groaning, then gave way with a slow curve. Harris held it up. Perfect. This is respect. Respect is accuracy. Accuracy is law. He handed me the next conduit. Your turn. I measured twice this time, double-checking. My foot pressed the bender, the pipe slowly curving. When I checked with the level, the bend landed at 28 degrees. Harris stared. What mistake? Off by 2 degrees. And what does 2 degrees cause? A run that doesn't line up. And what happens then? Stress on fittings. Rework. Rework causes. Delay cost. Correct. Now 2 degrees can cost 2 days. Maria snorted. Or cost John his lunch break. Or cost you your job, Harris shot back. We took turns. Maria bent too quickly, the pipe twisting slightly. Harris barked. What mistake? Crooked bend, she muttered. And crooked causes stress failure, correct? Steel remembers. Crooked never forgets. Older Harris, remembering, I knew a man once who rushed bends, thought the inspector wouldn't notice. When the inspector came, every crooked line shone under the lights. Company tore down 50 feet of conduit. That man never bent again. The silence that followed was heavier than the pipe in my hands. By midday, the rhythm set in. Measure, mark, bend, check. Measure again. Bend again. Harris prowled like a hawk, correcting snapping questions. What's the rule before bending? Measure twice. What's the rule during bending? Check angle and after. Confirm with level, Maria muttered, and then cry when it's wrong. Correct, Harris said without humor. We learned offset bends, saddle bends, 90-degree sweeps. My arms ached, Maria's shoulders sagged, but the pile of scrap grew smaller. More bends landed true, more runs matched the plan. For the first time I felt steel low, but not because I forced it, but because I respected it. As the sun lowered, Harris lined our bent pieces in a row. Most were straight, smooth, exact. He nodded once. Lesson 1, measure twice. Lesson 2, bend once. Lesson 3, accuracy is patience. Steel bends for no one, you bend for it. Tomorrow, you build more than scraps. Tomorrow, you build the skeleton itself. Maria dropped onto the floor, exhausted. So tomorrow we make the whole monster? Correct, Harris said. Tomorrow you tie every piece together, and when the skeleton stands, you'll see if you are builders or butchers. I stared at the neat row of conduit, each bend smooth and straight. For the first time, the skeleton of power seemed possible. Coming up next, Episode 21. Skeleton of Power, Order in Metal. Previously, Harris forced us to bend steel with patience. Measure twice, bend once. He repeated until the words echoed louder than drills. Maria rushed. I hesitated, and scrap piled up like a graveyard of mistakes. Yet by the end of the day, our bends were straighter, our angles cleaner. Harris promised, "Tomorrow, you build the skeleton itself." The day that promise became our test. The air was heavy with oil and dust. Along the south wall stood nothing but bare studs, an empty frame waiting for its armor. The benches overflowed with conduity, empty, rigid steel, PVC bundled like spears in a soldier's rack. Conduit benders leaned in a row, fish tapes coiled beside junction boxes, straps, and screws. The room felt like a battlefield before the fight. Harris strode in, his boots hitting the floor like a drumbeat. He didn't waste words. Blueprints are the brain. Wires are veins. Conduit is skeleton. Today you build bones. Ah! And bones do not forgive. Maria whispered, "He's scarier than the inspector." Ah! "He is the inspector," I muttered back. Harris barked, "John, first run, measure the distance, bend the offset. Mount the pipe." I knelt, tape trembling in my hand. I measured twice, remembering yesterday's lesson. My pencil mark landed sure. The bender groaned as I pressed, but this time the curve was smooth. I lifted the pipe, set it against the wall, clamped it. The conduit hugged flush. "What mistake?" Harris demanded. "None," I said. "What happens when there's no mistake? The work stands, correct?" Respect builds bones. Maria's turn. She bent to shallow, the pipe floating from the wall. Harris's voice cracked like thunder. "What mistake? Shallow bend, and shallow causes. Gapped from wall, stress on fittings, and stress causes. Failure, correct. Steel hates gaps." She bent again, deeper, smoother. This time the conduit pressed flush. At Harris gave the smallest nod, like a general acknowledging a soldier who survived the first volley. Ours blurred. Conduit rose along the wall, piece after piece. Sweat soaked our backs, arms aching from bends and mounts. The wall transformed no longer bare studs, but ribs of silver running in order. Halfway through, Harris stopped us. His eyes lingered on the gleaming metal. "Review," he ordered. "What did you learn the first day?" I answered quickly. "Conduit types. EMT 4 walls, PVC underground, rigid steel for heavy impact. What about edges? Always ream. A sharp edge cuts insulation. Cuts mean arcs. Arcs mean fire. Correct. First day, you learned conduit is armor, and airless armor is a blade." Turned to Maria. "Second day, what rule?" She wiped sweat from her forehead. It's measured twice. Bend once. "And why?" "'Cause crooked bends waste time, break fittings, and fail inspection." "And what happens when you rush? Scrap delay cost failure?" "Correct." Second day. You learned patience is accuracy, and accuracy is respect. He gestured at the wall we were building now. "Third day today, what do you see?" I swallowed. "The skeleton of power." "Correct," he said quietly, "and skeleton is law. Straight lines, proper spacing, secure clamps, order in metal. Inspectors don't see wires inside. They see bones outside. Okay. Ugly bones mean careless builders. Careless builders burn cities." The room went silent. Even Maria didn't joke. Harris broke it with a story. His voice was lower, heavier. "I had a friend named Delgado. Fast hands, fast bends. He thought inspectors didn't care about details. He bent sloppy, strapped crooked, looked fine to the eye. Edges shredded insulation. Months later, the wires arced. Flames took the ceiling, the report said. Poor workmanship. Delgado never touched conduit again. Skeleton collapsed because he mocked the law. The silence pressed harder than steel beams. I looked at the shining pipes we had mounted and felt my throat tighten. We pushed until dusk. Conduits rose in neat lines, clamped every 10 feet, junction boxes like joints along the ribs. The fish tape hissed as we pulled wires through, careful, slow, never forcing. Harris checked every clamp, every bend, every alignment with his level. His face stayed stern, but his silence was approval. Finally, he turned to us. His voice carried finality, like the end of a trial. Lesson 1. Conduit is armor, but careless armor kills. Lesson 2. Measure twice. Bend once, patience is law. Lesson 3. Skeleton is order. You built bones today? Respect them, or they will betray you. Maria collapsed onto a coil of scrap, hair damp, arms trembling. So tomorrow, more bending? No, Harris said quietly. Tomorrow, words return. Not paper, not steel voices. The site will shout, confuse, lie. And people lie worse than circuits. I looked at the gleaming skeleton we built, ribs of steel rising straight and true. For the first time, I felt pride not just for surviving, but for building something that would stand longer than I would. Coming up next, episode 22. Words in the noise, voices on the site.